Temi, can I come to you? You are VP of Sales and Marketing for Tizeti, a company that provides satellite broadband services in different parts of Africa. So you're very much on the service side rather than on the infrastructure side. What do you think around this question of whether each country needs its own satellite or whether it should benefit more from services?
All right, so I'll start with a thank you to the organizers for inviting me. Happy to be here to meet fellow collaborators in world development. My name is Temi. I work at Tizeti. Tizeti is a YC-backed ISP transforming internet services in Africa. We leverage solar-powered base stations to provide internet connectivity. So we're able to cut the costs usually associated with telcos who spend a lot of rent, who spend a lot on diesel, who build big base stations. We build smaller base stations, and then we put solar on top of it to power it. For context, Africa still has, well, generally, Global South still have one of the highest numbers of unconnected people, but this is particularly prevalent in Africa, where, and if you look at the figures, between 60 to 78% are out of internet coverage. And if you look at this in terms of actual numbers, that is 78% of 1.4 billion people. Most of these people are rural areas, even some of them are in urban populations and so on. And then because they have operators who build infrastructure, maybe fiber or metro, they focus in urban areas that are commercially viable, but then they leave out other places that do not, and that is why Africa still has a high percentage of that. And so the focus is to improve inclusion by building infrastructure, and whatever works. It was Xiaoping that said, whether a cat is black or white, as long as it kills mice, it's a good cat. Whatever works, whether it's backhaul from satellites or fiber, everything that works, let's get more people online. And then specifically to the question now on satellites. I think a lot of countries can afford it. Satellite is not cheap. It's not something you can buy off the racks. It's something you have to create and make. So some countries will be able to afford it. For countries who can, please, I think I implore them to go ahead. I expect that all countries should have at least one because it's necessary for them to also protect their digital integrity. We've seen a bit of what happened over the recent wars, Russia, Ukraine, and we've seen how some people were thrown offline because they didn't have their own infrastructure. So I think it's important generally for people to have, for countries to have their own satellites, if they can afford it.
Thank you. I must say I'm a little surprised by your answer, but very, very, very glad to hear it. Thank you very much. Temi, let me come back to you. I mean, you're from Nigeria. Nigeria has its own satellite operator. It has already an infrastructure, but you're providing services. You're also making a lot of use of data. Do you have a view on this?
Yes, so Nigeria has the NICOMSAT. There's an agency that's responsible for that, and we have a bunch. Okay. Nigeria has its own satellites. NICOMSAT is the name of the agency, and they have a bunch of satellites. However, we have, like I mentioned earlier, we can leverage backhaul. I think the focus really is on getting more people online, leveraging the services that they offer, connecting served, unserved, and underserved, whether it's women or children or people in rural areas and so on. We leverage, my company actually has a partnership with Eutelsat that helps to bridge that divide by providing community Wi-Fi. However, we also have, we're exploring currently a partnership with NICOMSAT to see how we can leverage the government-owned satellites to connect more people. So I think eventually it's a mixture of whatever can work, but the point that we should see really in focus is how best are we using these satellites to connect more people and bring more people online. I think that's just what we should keep in focus. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This question is actually directly related to the economic impacts, etc. Can you share your thoughts on that?
All right, so thank you. So I have just three things. One is, and there's a bit of inclusion that we need. I'll look at the telco space in Africa for context. So we have most of the biggest funders building subsea cables outside Africa. So you have To Africa coming in end of this year. We have Google Equine already built, but then they build one part. They build the subsea. Operators inside those countries now have to move that by building metro, by building fiber. So it's collaborative. Everybody works together to ensure that you in your house are connected and your business is connected. So we need to enforce and ensure that, or amplify that. Secondly, is the co-creation. So while there's a lot of data that's been generated, local data eventually is what works locally. So I think that we should, Global South offers unique use cases for some of these applications, some of the technology applications, and we should have a broader understanding of the joint issues that we have. We all, based on the sessions we've seen outside, we all face the same issues. We're facing insecurity, we're facing climate change, we're facing all these things. How do you work together to achieve them, to address them? We have unique instances, you have unique instances, but how can we collaborate to ensure that the learnings we all have, we can bring them into one pool and then have a joint path going forward? I think that is what I would advise about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Temi. Thanks for sharing that.